What pressures would keep a friend from calling for help even when it was a matter of life and death? In 2005, 4 fraternity brothers watched and did nothing to help as their close friend, 21-year-old Matthew Carrington, died in front of them.
I live with the consequences of pain for the rest of my life. My actions killed a good person.
Nothing I can say here today will bring back Matthew Carrington or lessen the grief that his family feels.
His death was preventable, and I will live with the guilt for the rest of my life.
Why did these 4 boys do nothing?
Every time I think about it, the feelings rush back, and the idea of what if just stands there in the corner, just not leaving. It's always there. I had no doubt that if I would have known what I know now, that I could have stopped it.
This story is not unique, but it raises a question. Is there something in human nature that can keep us from helping?
I can remember when I first heard about the study, Psych 1. I was like, wow, that is ridiculous. How can someone see something happening that they know is wrong, that they know the person standing next to them knows wrong, but not take an action? It's sickening to know that I took part in it, that I could have just been the one that stood up.
A makeshift memorial of flowers and candles is placed outside the Chi Tau fraternity house for Matthew Carrington. Police say the 21-year-old Chico State student was in the basement of this house taking part in a fraternity event at 5 a.m. Wednesday morning when his body gave out.
Matt didn't have to die that night. Could have all been so different. Could have all been from the very beginning when they were all down there. When there was a room full of guys. It went wrong before they all left.
Matthew Carrington joined a fraternity and was undergoing hazing during the spring semester of his junior year.
Pledge Class 2004. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And these are our little pledge brothers and shit right here.
He wanted to join because he would get to meet people. He's kind of shy, you know, networking and such when you're older. I mean, you've got brothers and houses in every college all over the country, so. They did some pretty silly things, more embarrassing than causing anybody any harm. Like wearing a mini skirt out in the intersection, or switching your t-shirt with a homeless guy and putting his shirt on. But it was nothing that was gonna get anybody hurt.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
How did these seemingly harmless pranks escalate to the point where Matthew died?
Basically, it was the 3rd night what the fraternity called Inspiration Week, what the pledges call Hell Week. The pledges, Mike and Matt, were brought into the basement, and the first thing they did was to undergo some grueling physical calisthenics. The young men were then given a 5-gallon water jug, which in itself weighed about 42 pounds, and were told to stand up on a narrow bench, stand on 1 foot, and to drink as much as they possibly could.
Matthew at some point became nauseated, vomited, became increasingly confused. The kidneys can only handle so much water, and indeed you can poison yourself.
When you're drinking water and you're acting drunk, okay, something's not right. You know? When you're slurring your words, when you're, you know, you can't manipulate things like you normally, something's wrong.
Gabriel Mastretti and J.P. Fickus came in at some point and they were both intoxicated. Mastretti was excessively intoxicated and they basically took over.
Actually, to tell you the truth, I don't remember most of it. Fortunately, I was pretty intoxicated when it happened. I remember making him do push-ups. I don't remember why.
Matt was at a point where he couldn't do any more push-ups. He just all of a sudden dropped, and it just seemed like his whole body just tensed up.
You've got, well, at this point, 4 boys down there. It just makes me sick that they didn't think. They didn't think something's wrong. So why can't someone say stop?
His hips moved a little bit and he just seized up. And Mike said, oh my God, I think he bit his tongue. And then he said, somebody needs to call an ambulance. I was turning on my cell phone when I was not walking down the stairs and was typing in 911 when I saw Mike at the bottom of the stairs. I had it typed into my phone. All I had to do was press the green button. And he said, it's okay, you don't need to call 911. Matt's just sleeping. You know, I hit the red button and canceled it out. And he was snoring. It just sounded like he was snoring.
I remember that thoroughly. I remember the sound of him snoring. I remember thinking, no, he's sleeping.
The snoring was certainly not sleeping. It would have been a result of water intoxication and a pulmonary edema, which is basically the lungs filling with fluid. Approximately an hour after he had been left to sleep it off, he was not breathing.
They do nothing for an hour while they have him lay there. Then they realize he's not breathing. Then all of a sudden it's like, call 911. Well, God, at this point they do, but at this point now, it's too late.
Matthew was pronounced dead approximately 27 minutes after arrival in the emergency department.
When we got there, they took me and Debbie in the back, and we were still hoping that when they pulled that sheet over his head, it was going to be another kid, not yours. Just as bad as that sounds, there was just a chance it wasn't our son. And as soon as they pulled the sheet up and you seen his hairdo, you knew it was him.
And she's screaming, no, not Matt. Not Matt.
The four ringleaders in the fraternity hazing and torture death of 21-year-old Chico State student Matthew Carrington accepted responsibility. All four, some through tears, pleading guilty.
Guilty? Guilty, sir.
Guilty.
Guilty.
All four were given jail time. Most culpable, 22-year-old Gabriel Maestretti, sentenced to a year in jail for involuntary manslaughter. 25-year-old Jerry Lim and 19-year-old John Fickus sentenced to 6 months as accessories to manslaughter.
Matt trusted him to help him out if he was going to get in trouble, because he wasn't worried about getting into trouble with just drinking water. When it was time for help, they didn't step up, and he didn't get any help.